Hi guys, and welcome to this very, very special episode of
The Results Show.
The Results Show indeed. Today we are delighted.
And he drops the mic.
Boom. Today we are delighted to be joined. I'm going to carry on going. You're not going to throw me off. We are delighted to be joined by Debra Heslin, all the way from Nashville in Tennessee. Is that right, Debra?
Yes, today, that's where I am, correct.
But quite often, your usual place of residence is Florida, isn't it?
Correct,
Yeah.
yes, yeah. Mostly Florida, and it's cold here today.
It is. You were saying it's like, just before we went on the call, it's like minus 12 or something like that?
It's minus 12 centigrade. The approximation for me from Fahrenheit to centigrade.
Yes. Yeah, if it's Fahrenheit, I can't do it. I don't know whether that's boiling or hot or centigrade. I can kind of work.
Because you're not old enough, mate.
Well, you had to like divide by 6 and times by 9 and then add 32 and then, just go and look at a thermometer.
That's what I did. It's about minus 12.
There we go. So Debra has kindly and unsuspectingly agreed to join us because obviously you've been learning NLP and Huna for many years. And so what we'd like to do is, again, and obviously this part of the program, leading on from previous episodes where we started to look at actually the integration and implementation of a lot of the technologies which we've been speaking about. And so what we'd like to do is basically get your feedback on what it's like to learn these technologies. And also in terms of like technologies or philosophies, it's difficult to find a word that describes all these things, isn't it? Or techniques, I guess, or practices even.
It's both really, and just to give a little bit of history, Debra originally didn't train with me in NLP, Timeline Therapy, Hypnosis, or Huna for that matter. She trained with my very dear friend and mentor, the late Dr. Tad James.
Yes, he of curry fame, for those of you who've watched previous episodes.
Curry fame, yes. Who I originally trained with. And then obviously he passed away and all those kind of things, very, very sad. And then Debra got in contact with me, the Performance Partnership, to talk about how she could continue her training and development. Debra's come out and done Huna training with me in Tenerife twice.
It is lovely out there. That was a lovely trip to go out.
I think you were there when Debra was there, actually.
Oh, yeah, in fact, yes.
I think so.
I think we were.
Yeah, I think you were, yeah. And then also, we wanted to talk about later on about the fact that Debra's going to be coming and training for the Performance Partnership with some other very new, very exciting trainings as well. So Debra, give us a little bit of your history of NLP, Timeline Therapy, and Hypnosis training with Tad, which is before I knew you. And then, but also, Debra, you ended up working with Tad.
Correct.
And for Tad. Yeah. Obviously before he passed away. So it'd be great to just hear some history and what impact all of that had on your life. In a very tangible point of view. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. It definitely makes sense.
Cool.
Tangible actually being such a key word because the tangible aspect of it gave the results and goes for the reason, or one of the reasons, not the sole reason I went into this business. So piggybacking off of that, the reason I got into this business is because when I was in corporate America, I used to, this little Australian, as I like to say, was the general manager of John F. Kennedy Airport for a major airline.
Wow.
And I used to live in the imposter syndrome of how did I get this position? And, then a lot of stress and anxiety and overwhelm. So basically, I was in not that role the whole time, but I worked for them for almost 16 years. And during that time, as I said, I had a lot of stress and a lot of anxiety. So I decided to start practicing yoga. I've always worked out, right? And I'm doing yoga, and then I couldn't understand why in a yoga room I would cry, or I would, giggle or whatever. So it led me to start to want to understand the mind-body connection, which I heard, David mention in one of the previous podcasts. And the more I studied that, I ended up, cutting a long story short, becoming a yoga teacher. So going from this high-powered corporate America job with, prestige and a pretty good salary to making $40 or $80 a day. And my husband ended up saying to me, you need to get off your kumbayas and make some again, for us to get where we want to be. So that led me into the coaching realm because I wanted to understand, the mind-body connection. So that very first year, or actually it was over the first few years, I did a lot of different certifications, but there was always something missing. It was kind of like I was winging it when I would be coaching somebody. I didn't understand the why behind the what, or how to do certain things. And I'm taking one of Jack Canfield's trainings, so I'm one of his trainers on his success principles. And Jack made a comment about neuro-linguistic programming. And I said to him, I raised my hand and I'm like, what's neuro-linguistic programming? And he goes, Debra, if you haven't done it, it's a must. NLP is a must. You've got to do it. So then I started, researching, and that's how I ended up at the Ted James Company doing my NLP practitioner training. And at the end of what David asked in that question there, tangible results. So I was maybe making a little bit of money coaching, right? And I left. I did not even want to go because I'd done 6 certifications that year. And and a couple of years prior, I had finished other ones. I was like, I don't even want to go and take this training. It's, just another training that's not going to be the results that I want. I ended up going to the training, left there, and was able to quadruple my income and double my clients within 3 months.
Wow, okay.
Right? So I was like, if I can do this with the practitioner training, what the heck can I do with the master practitioner training? So I had already signed up for it, but then I couldn't wait for the master practitioner, and that led me to the trainers training. And David, you might not remember this, but I had contacted you on LinkedIn and have wanted to do your trainers training, but I'd already spent the money, right? And you suggested to me, which is really a good value, I suggest that you do where you're doing it with, and you can always come back here because you would be paying twice, and that was a concern for me. So I always kept that in mind and followed you on your, Facebook Lives and just lots of other things. So that was, asked me questions around that, but that was how I started implementing what I had learned right away. Because if you don't get value out of something and take results on that value, then you're just part of the 95% that is not taking action, right? Yeah.
Can I ask you a question? So, because obviously after doing practitioner, as you said, your coaching business took off. Yeah. Now, is that because when you then start to use this thing, you're getting better results? Now, because I think...
Sorry, go ahead.
No, and the reason I'm saying this is because I think, and again, this almost like comes back to the whole ethos and the whole raison d'etre of the Results Show, which is with a lot of people, NLP is kind of like how they get clients. It's like, oh, look, we can do this. But actually using NLP, actually understanding how to create significant change in people's mindsets and behaviors is not how you get clients, it's how you delight clients and how you then get more clients. Would that be true to say?
100%, because when I left the training in practitioner, I already was working with people, not many people, but there was one particular female attorney that I was working with that I said to her, and the big thing that I used with her was perceptual positions, believe it or not.
Right.
And I was already working with her, and I said to her, I want to use some of these new techniques that I have learned, that once you have successfully gotten the results that you want, I want you to recommend me to everybody you know. And she was the sort of person that was very outgoing, very well respected, and told everybody. So she got the results from, she actually wanted a divorce from her husband. And then we ended up doing, we went through, keys to an achievable outcome and all of that, and what was it she wanted. And one of the techniques that we did, being perceptual positions, she was able to realize that the reason why they had no communication together was because she never stopped for a moment to let him have a word.
Okay.
Right? So that night she went home and they had a conversation together. She came back the next day and I said, so we're still working on the divorce? She said, divorce? I don't want a divorce. We had the best night, right? So, yeah.
We know what that means, right?
This shit works.
Yeah. Yeah,
That wasn't actually what I meant, but...
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's a significant result, isn't it? I mean, again, that's life-changing, because without that skill, without that intervention, it would have been a very, very, very different world for those guys.
Yeah.
And what's really interesting too is I had so many tools to pick from. It was really just more or less putting my hand in and deciding I'm going to do this. Because I could have done so many things to get rid of the emotions, I could have used timeline therapy, I could have used anchoring her in a good state, I could have used reframing. There were so many things. But that was just such a great tool that all the resources she had inside came out through the conversation with herself and her imaginary husband standing opposite her.
It's almost like a bag of golf clubs, isn't it? Because the aim is usually the same, which is to progress, to advance. But you've got all these clubs because depending on where the ball is, if it's in the sand trap or on the fairway or whatever, you're going to have to do something different to it. And so it's almost like going, right, okay, for this, I think we'll use that one.
Yep.
Exactly.
So, Debra, obviously, you did all your NLP training. You didn't do it with me. You did it with Tad. Then you did Huna training with Tad. And then you've done Huna training with me.
Correct.
What would you say is the comparison between doing the Huna training with me in the performance partnership and doing the Huna training with Tad?
Well, let me clarify that. I didn't do the Huna directly with Tad. I did it someone that had learned all those tools and techniques.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Yeah. So, sorry for any misunderstanding.
No, that's fine. Thank you for clarifying that. No,
Yeah.
I want it to be.
So the difference is, and I think those that know you will know this, I loved it. Whichever, I always take out my positive learnings from anything that, that's my choice. I can either take the positive or the negative, right? However, what I loved with you, and I'm a fan, so it's really easy for me to say this, is that, and you can even hear it on the podcasts, David doesn't rush through things, right? There's almost like a pause where you're able to process what is being said, so you can try it on, what you're learning, and then you're able to implement in the moment. Does that make sense how I'm saying that? So I don't feel like there's so much stuff that doesn't relate to what I'm learning. It's very easy to understand, even in the complications of the understanding.
I think one of the other things about it, and obviously we're talking about you, but you're here, is the fact that with David, because you've got those small classes, it's a lot more of a personal feel, whereas with some Some other training organizations, they favor a mass training approach, but where you've then got someone who you can actually ask questions to, get feedback from in terms of, is your understanding correct? Is your implementation of what you just learned correct? And then kind of get like those useful guidances, which is simply impossible in a larger training environment, where it's like 1 to hundreds. Would you say that's also something which would...
Without a doubt. Well, you don't want to just be a number and get lost in the crowd, and I'm okay with that, because I always find a way to to get noticed, but there's a lot of people that don't. They might not have a personality where I'm not afraid to ask a question or want to get more information around something or have an opinion. Right, so you don't get lost in the crowd for those people that can be more subdued.
Yeah, and especially with this sort of thing, then it may well be that the reason why they're there is because they have problems communicating, or kind of like they're worried about am I good enough to actually, am I allowed even to actually have an opinion or to ask a question? So I think it is important that you've got that level of care.
Or I'm just a bit slow.
Oh, you're talking about in terms of your presentation?
Very generous in the giving.
Yes, I think what Debra's saying as well is right, because you do get some people who literally motor on. I'm not talking about me personally. But with you, there is a lovely measured delivery, and there is then the pause. Now, of course, we know that it's because you're trying to work out what you want to say next. But as far as the audience is concerned, it's giving them the break that they need to interpret what you just said and actually file it away properly.
Yeah. I'll take that one.
The internal process of going, wait.
Yes. So here's my question in terms of, so we talked about a little bit about NLP, a little bit about Huna. I think you've also done breakthrough sessions with David. So could you tell us a little bit about those?
Breakthrough Session Masterclass.
Breakthrough Sessions Masterclass.
Are you asking me or David?
Asking you, Debra.
Okay, as you look at David.
Sorry. I'm kind of, and what I'm trying to do is basically look at you on the screen. So, because we're trying to create like a little campfire thing going on here, where we're all just sat around.
I really enjoyed the Breakthrough Process Masterclass, because I did it with one of my friends who has now gone on to do so many things with David and Sally. And what I loved about it was there was a more understanding of each of the questions to ask through the breakthrough process. And there were great metaphors that he would tell us, like the crazy eight, things like that, and I still use those all the time. I use those. But what I liked about it is I honestly didn't know that David is the one that put that together. So you're really learning then from the source of where it came from. And I know I can say this lovingly, because there's always something to learn. I did not enjoy the breakthrough process in my master practitioner. I did not enjoy it. So that was something that I got to re-experience in a more I did it when I came out, because I knew all the things to do, but I didn't have a good experience with it myself. So that has helped me have such a great experience understanding the exact process and what it is I'm looking for. And the other one, with the part that you got to with the couples coaching, has helped me tremendously with their strategies.
Yeah.
And their stacked anchors and what they do with those anchors, each anchor. And it's phenomenal, because using that, I never wanted to work with couples until I went through that. Now I work with a lot of couples.
Oh, good.
I help them with that. Yeah.
So the stacked anchors, because I seem to remember an episode where we were talking about, I think the analogy we used was like a Polaroid, so like the Polaroid of your loved one, and then it slowly becomes covered up with Post-it notes, which are the associations, like the bad days and all the other bits and pieces, until eventually they disappear behind this, this wall of stuff that just isn't their fault.
Yeah. Yeah, because people just don't understand it. Yeah, great stuff. So I think we.
There's actually one last question, which is in terms of NLP and Huna, because obviously one of the things that we've been talking about is basically how they complement each other. What's your view in terms of, obviously because we're talking about NLP from the terms of it's quite a mind thing, whereas Huna is quite a heart and energy thing. How have you found that implementing the two, working together, has become more than the sum of its parts, I guess?
First of all, I love it because we're all energy, right? And so to be able to bring in the energy work as well, I love using the Ho'oponopono, the forgiveness process, whether it's in the timeline therapy part or at the end of it where we're able to do the forgiveness process. I have done with CEOs of large corporations chanting. Yes, go figure, and they love it.
And they love it, yeah.
They can feel it, So I'm not afraid now to use these beautiful energy techniques because the world needs it. And if people are open, even when they're not, they trust me because I have that relationship with them. So I'm going to do something that might feel strange to you, but you're going to love it. So I will do, Huna. I just want to say one other thing around that. The elements is another way with the breathing, right? I do the HeartMath and things like that, but breathing with the elements, the air, the earth. It's wonderful for my clients to put them in different states. They love it.
Well, that's, you just mentioned HeartMath there. Mm-hmm. And I think that's...
Yes, that's exactly where I was going.
Another episode. So I think Debra, it's fantastic. Will you come back for a second one?
Will you come and tell us all about HeartMath? Because I want to know.
So we can learn all about HeartMath. I know a little bit about it, not as much as you do. And I just mentioned it to Pete today, and he's going ooh. Mm-hmm. We can wind up this episode, I think.
Yes, we can.
And then we can do another one around HeartMath and next steps.
Yes. So, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, big thanks to Debra for joining us from a very, very chilly Nashville in Tennessee. Thanks as always to David Shepherd for making all of this good stuff happen. And we will see you on the next episode where we will be diving into HeartMath. So join us or forever wonder what you would have missed out on. In the meantime, if you have any comments or questions, you can email us at podcast@The Results Show. I got the voice changer switched on. There we go. TheResultsShow.com. And we will see you next time.